Greetings, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. Today, I wanted to do a brief discussion of a bad trade can end up being a really good lesson, and that's what we wanted to share with you today, especially because it's a Friday, May 7th, and it's pin day, which means options expire today. I want to make sure we thank our Patreon supporters. If you enjoy our trade discussions and investment discussions, there's plenty more on our Patreon page. We appreciate all those that are there. Please note the highest level Patreons at 125 and above actually get a daily show, whereas those that are sub 125 are in that 3-day-a-week zone, but there are other benefits that you get as well. Also want to note that we appreciate constructive criticism and work hard to provide the show and make it useful, and so mercy is greatly appreciated. So one of the reason I brought this show on today, and I don't have the laptop with me, which I would love to go get despite wasting time, so maybe I won't. So something happened yesterday, which is Tesla's stock price. I kind of predicted it would close towards 650. The reason is that it turns out there's a whole bunch of call options, especially at 700, that the market makers do not want the stock to get to. As we've discussed, there's something called a put-call ratio. So, as usual, front end of the show, we're kind of basic and we get more intense as the show progresses. So I'd like to ask you to type in your Google bar, Yahoo Finance Tesla. What that will do is take you to a page on Tesla. The next thing I'd like to ask you to do is, once you're at that page, look to the middle of the page to the right and you'll see something that says options. After doing so, I'd like to request that you scroll down into something called puts. The first half of the page in blue will be calls, but as you scroll to the put section, I specifically would like to request that you scroll all the way down to something called 650 puts. Now, as all of you know, there's something called 650 calls and there's something called 650 puts. I'm very much focused on this today for a specific reason. There's a field in engineering called decision analysis, and one of the key components of this is all about how do you make decisions. And so I had a challenge yesterday, which was I had a call option at 660, and Tesla's stock price was bouncing around between 665 and about 653. And when it was back down to 653 or 4, I thought to myself, do I want to take this loss and then be done with this trade for the week, A, or B, do I want to stay in there and hopefully have the stock recover nicely and therefore make a few dollars off of that option? Well, my thought process was better to live another day, so I sold that call option at a loss, and then as the day closed out, the stock recovered nicely back into the mid-60s, and now this morning, with some positive news on jobs not being as strong, we now have the stock price taking off, which is great. Now, after making that decision, I thought to myself, no, wait a second here. Did I do a good job of charting the week in terms of put-call ratios and what was going on or not? And what does the put-call ratios say about how the stock was supposed to move yesterday and today? Answer: it turns out that there are, as you'll see on that line, if you look at 650, there are now 11,000 puts on Tesla. Yesterday, when I looked at it in the morning, the number was actually 10,000 puts on Tesla. The contrast to this is that there were 2,500 calls, so there are 4 times more puts than calls. What this meant is there are a lot of smart people who felt that Tesla's stock price was going to drop easily through the 650 level, maybe heading 620s, 630s, and they all wanted to pile in there. So what the market makers said was, oh, there are 4 times more puts than calls. So our goal then is to make sure the stock price does not get at or below 650. Now, for it to end up 60, 55, something like that, the call people make some money, but nothing like the amount of money that are lost by the people who are buying puts. Now, the contrast to this actually is the 700 calls. You'll notice that if you go through that list, the last time I checked, there were 8,500 calls and 3,500 puts, or 4,500 puts at the 800 level, twice as many calls than puts. Again, the goal of market makers there is make sure the stock price doesn't go over 700, and so just below the 700 mark is actually very useful, because now you don't pay off that much to the people who won on the put side, but you definitely force all the people buying the calls to lose money while you make money in the process. So I also noticed there was a compilation of puts and calls, I believe more calls at the 670 number as well, so that's another point that's significant. So what this all tells us is today my expectation for Tesla is that it will end up somewhere between the above 650 but below 700 position, and I wouldn't be surprised if we end up at 655, maybe 658, something like that, even though the stock price is up a lot more than that pre-market. There are a lot of techniques, pros can use to bury that stock, and I expect them to use these. Now, what I've suggested to my viewers is that if you have a lot of money at risk, it's prudent to track how all this works. One of the things, Taleb has an idea called the Black Swan from his book, and the idea is trading options in that last day, like today, or heading into the last day. That would be like Thursday into Friday. And the issue is that if you handle your business well, you can make 4 or 5 times your money in that period. The problem is that if you miss, you lose all your money, potentially. So the question is, how do you manage this better? So what I'd like to do for my advanced students is ask you to chart the week in terms of within a 50 to 80 point of where the stock is currently at. You should know on a graph what's happening at the 700, 650, and within 50 points is ideal, particularly the 700 and 650 in this case, but you want to have that charted over the weekend. That way, as the week rolls in, you can simply say, oh, I know what the week is going to look like in general from market maker standpoint, and as you're considering buying or selling puts or calls, you'll be in mind what the market makers are trying to accomplish. The other thing you should consider doing is, for example, with today, I just said that the stock is going to end up between 650 and 700, and I gave you the reason why. What should you do with that? Start charting what I said and why, and then track it on a weekly basis to see, oh, did his prediction work for the pin day for this week? And as you understand why it works, I think you'll notice that it works 70-80% of the time. So a 30% win on your calls when it comes to how options trade or investing works is considered one of the best money managers in the world. So if you have an instrument that can push you above 50%, heading for 70% in accuracy, that's when you actually can make some good money, and you may take losses on that other 25%, but those wins can add up to some very, very nice money. So the big challenge here is you've got to make a decision what to do with those calls or puts even within today. And having some sense of the direction that the market makers are trying to push things is really helpful to your decision-making process, because 20 minutes, a half hour could be a huge difference in terms of value of certain instruments. So I would say that, today is an excellent day for a pin, because there's a lot of attention for Tesla that's focused on other companies that are announcing, et cetera. So a lot of the traders are not focused on Tesla. Makes it easier for the folks that do pins to execute. If the stock is running way wild, it's harder because there are large numbers of traders involved, and those that want to do their normal process cannot do so in this case. So the assignment for today is, does Tesla end up between 650 and 700? A. B. Does it, when it does the 650 to 700 thing we talked about, is it actually below 670? Because the sweet spot right now is above 650 but below 670, because there's a bunch of calls right there at 670 if you check the numbers. Now, if you really want to become an advanced student here, watch the volume. There are certain cases like the 650 puts where there are only 11,000 calls, but there are 54,000 that traded on Thursday. And because we're on an expiration day, I would say I expect a large number of them to trade today as well. But the large number tends to be right around where the stock is. But having a feel for how this trading volume is going as well could be another variable in your decision-making process that might be helpful. So we very much look forward to your input on this. I've been looking forward to ways to introduce, small concepts that end up being big, and we look forward to you learning more and making more money in the process. We want to remind you, please take time to like and subscribe. We also could use help on Patreon, and think that the help we'll provide will be useful to you in prepping for trading daily and things to anticipate, so you make more money and lose less. As usual, we close out with our health tips. I'm really excited today because I got a chance to ride my Brompton bike. Was finally repaired, and it was awesome to get out there for a half hour and ride around. Even though it's 20 years old, it's performing like a brand new bike after being repaired, and I'm very, very excited because without having to go running or power walking, I can get a half hour of cardio in and get out into nature before it gets too hot, and it's awesome. So my recommendation is a half hour cardio a day if possible. Don't forget, if you're trying to lose some weight, a 2-a-day process where you do some exercise in the morning, then in the evening is a good idea, because the calories for that day are consumed by the first workout, and then the second workout will actually consume stored calories in the form of weight that you're trying to lose. So you may want to think about that one as well. The next thing I wanted to review is, don't forget your 25 leg lifts a day to improve the quad muscle strength, reducing the chance of knee issues. Also want to recommend no more than once a week fried foods, also as a way to avoid type 2 diabetes and other health issues related. Also wanted to encourage you, a friend of mine, as we've talked about, her dad is a doctor, and she was sharing that she had a really difficult time with weight control for a very long time. And she met, after her 50th doctor, she met with someone that gave her a challenge. And the challenge was, you're not allowed to eat anything that is that you can't pronounce for a month. Meaning that if it's coming out of the box and there's a bunch of stuff there that includes high fructose corn syrup in those sodas, all those things, you ain't allowed to eat them for a month. And then after you go through that month, see what you think of that, because I think you might find real progress that you weren't getting when you were eating all those unpronounceables, which are great chemicals that taste great, but they're really bad news for your body. So I'm going to leave our sort of health tips there for today. And as you know, I regularly come back. We try to add more. And if you're a health professional, we'd love to add more. One example being, I learned about the whole idea of forest bathing. So trying to get out in nature and allowing the impact of the forest on your body to give you better health outcomes. At any rate, we look forward to your comments on this. Noting where puts and calls are for the week, particularly on pin day, can be big. And we hope you profit from it and look forward to your comments. Have a great day. Bye for now. Tschüss German, au revoir French, Lihitro, Hebrew, Choda, Hafez, Farsi, Strasvice, Russian, Ni hao ma, Chinese, Konbanwa, Japanese, good day, our friends in Australia, namaste, good luck to our friends in India with the health challenges they're having, and have a great day, and bye for now.